Look, point blank, you got questions, right? You're looking at this side hustle stuff, these gig economy apps. It could be what makes me the most money, the fastest even. Well, what about problems? What should I avoid? When's the best time to do this? I get it. There's certainly a lot of questions. I still got questions here. So in this video, I compiled some of your questions and at least one call out so we can answer these if you happen to have one of these questions here and help you hopefully make more money this year. Quick heads up, the holiday season is coming up. If you know someone that works in this side hustle space or you just want to self-gift, nothing wrong with that. Check out our Amazon storefront for a bunch of ideas. That's linked down below. All right, let's get into it here. This is going to cover several niches in the gig economy, and I pretty much guarantee you this is going to help you out no matter the niche that you're working in. So first question from Craig, I appreciate you asking. And the question is, how do you manage the multi-apping? When you accept an offer, this is on food delivery, on one app, do you go offline on the other ones and then turn back on after completing an order? Now, multi-apping, it's driving on different apps at the same time, so you have more choices, right? You get simultaneous requests. And I mean, frankly, this doesn't even have to be just food delivery. This can be grocery delivery. This could even be rideshare, right? As long as we have competing apps in the same niche and we're online, we've signed up with all of them, again, to get the most options possible. So let me show you. Here's an example of multi-apping. I'm online, right, with the different apps. And what you'll have sometimes is simultaneous requests. Now, feel free. I mean, you're an independent contractor. Take the one that makes the most sense for you. It could be, okay, I'm done for the day, right? It's headed in my direction. Or the dollars to mile ratio, how much am I getting paid for the miles driven? That makes sense because I don't want to drive a bunch of empty miles or excessive miles. So it can be simultaneous requests. Or I could simply get, an order or a request on app A, and I'm still online with app B. So to answer your question here, Craig, yeah, what we're going to do is just that. We're going to go offline with the other apps that we're not taking an assignment on. Or on some apps like DoorDash, you can simply pause your current shift, and I would do so, let's say, on DoorDash. And actually, let's relate that to this question from Big House Blues 9. Thanks for asking. Big House says, great channel. I appreciate that. Continuing, could you guys explain, okay, yes, multi-apping. When door dashing, do you use the 35-minute pause button when using other apps or end the dash and restart when done? That's a great question. So listen to this. If you drive for DoorDash or you're thinking about DoorDash, so as Blue House mentions, you can pause that dash. So I'm driving in a segment of my marketplace. I can simply click on pause orders. And again, you'll get, 30, 35 minutes to, pause requests, and no requests will come in. Now, if you go over that time, they'll just end your dash automatically. So you're basically, logged off. If you scheduled time, again, you're done. They ended your dash. Or Big House asks, should I just click that anyway? I mean, should I pause versus just straight up ending my dash? Now, for me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, typically what I would do first is pausing a dash. But you only get really that certain amount of time. And if you try to pause again, you may only have like 15 minutes of that, let's say 35 minutes left. So think about that. And if you're doing a stacked order on, that's 2 or more assignments for one driver on another app, I mean, chances are it's going to take 30 minutes anyway. Now, here's a problem with that is if your marketplace that night, day, whenever you're driving right on DoorDash, if it's exceptionally busy. So either I took longer than 30 minutes on the pause, or I just straight up ended my dash, then how do I get back online? Well, it has to be busy enough. That segment on DoorDash has to be red, indicating that there's not enough dashers that I can go back online, right? But A, if they've scheduled enough dashers, or if it's busy, there's good peak pay, which is a bonus pay. Then other drivers may be jumping online and you might not be able to go online immediately because, again, it's so busy. Next question from Stuart. Stuart asks, I say beware on pizza orders, especially the smaller independent, better pizza places. No telling how long it will take. That's a great question. And I think really the question behind this is, should we be wary of, maybe I'll just say local chains, right? Local restaurants versus, national chains. From my experience doing this really across most every niche since 2015, I can't say, just top of mind here, that there's a huge correlation of local places being less on the ball, just having you wait longer than national chains. Now, I get that's really anecdotal, right? So comment down below, do you see a correlation between locally owned restaurants and national chains? Because think of this. So the local chain, they might not have all of the processes and procedures like a national chain would. So if they're getting slammed on a weekend with a ton of orders, then there might be more of a backup on orders compared to, let's say, a national restaurant chain. They have the resources maybe to hire more, and they have really a streamlined process for, their A to Z orders. Now, that's not to say that national chains don't get backed up. They do, even, they can't avoid staffing problems, what have you. So comment down below. Is there a correlation between local restaurants and national chains insofar as who drops the ball more? Next, from Daniel. Daniel asks, how do you track miles for each app separately? This is a fantastic question. So on any gig app, generally you're a 1099 independent contractor. So you need to record, document your business miles while you're online, while you're intending to do business, because you can write off those business miles come tax time. Now, when it comes to business miles, it gets tricky, right? Because, okay, I'm driving for DoorDash and I'm online with Grubhub because I'm multi-apping. So do I document the same amount of miles for each app whenever I'm processing my taxes? How does that work? Now, listen, I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax professional. This is not legal or professional tax advice. Certainly consult a tax professional or your CPA. Now, generally, you can't double dip. You can't say, well, I drove 20 miles, so I was online with both apps. I'm going to record I drove 20 miles for DoorDash and 20 miles for Grubhub. Again, talk to your CPA, but generally, you're not going to be able to double dip those miles. So you're usually going to use your best estimate of how many miles were you driving on DoorDash. Think about the orders that you got versus on Grubhub. So if you drove, let's say 20 miles, you can say, well, I was on a DoorDash order, let's say 6 miles of it, and I had the remaining on Grubhub. So as we get into this next question from Keisha, if you are getting value in this video, we really appreciate it if you do drop a like on this video. And Keisha asks, what happens if you do not accept an order and you don't officially decline it? I know that it is released. I'm a new driver and I don't want a negative profile, or I guess negative ramifications here. So I just allow the order to fade away and be released. Do you agree or have any suggestions? That's a great question, especially for new. So lean in for this. So on a lot of these apps, you have what's called an acceptance rate and a completion rate. So I get an order request and I have to decide, do I want it or not? So I clicked accept. Obviously, I've accepted it, right? And the percent of times that I complete that order after accepting, that's my completion rate. But like Keisha asks, what if I don't click anything? Because there's typically either an X or there's a decline if I actually don't want that order. And there's counters as far as how much time I have to make that decision. But again, what if I don't click anything? So you'll see, for instance, on Grubhub, I believe it'll say missed, right? You'll have rejected when you actually decline it, and then you'll have missed, indicating you didn't click anything. Now on DoorDash, for example, and on Uber Eats, there's no reporting like that. There's no kind of timeline of what you missed, skipped, declined, etc. But The short of it is it doesn't matter. So if you're driving, if you click that X or if you just let it go through, doesn't matter what they call it, it doesn't matter. And you can't be punished as an independent contractor for selecting an order that makes the most sense for you. You're allowed to do that. So if you deem I don't want it, and I can tell I don't want it, and you decline, that's fine. If you, for whatever reason, just let it go through, you don't click anything and it gets sent to another driver, that's fine as well. Now, the only thing you'll see, sometimes some of these apps will say, hey, are you still online? Kind of like, are you still paying attention? And they might time you out, and they may pause the dash, or again, just time you out. You can go right back online. Don't worry about that. It's not going to punish you, and it's not going to give you any kind of lesser orders for doing this. Next, we got a great question from a Choco Java Chip, which is just a great name in and of itself there. So Choco asks, how long do you wait in between $7+ orders? I'd be waiting 10, 15 minutes or more. I'm even in a big market. And the reason that Choco's stating $7+ because I want you ideally to look for a minimum of $7. I just feel like once we start to get $6 and especially sub $6, it's not really worth the time. Even if it takes 15 minutes, even if it's just a mile of driving. I mean, technically this could be rideshare as well, but we are talking about food delivery here. So if you find that you're waiting 10 to 15 minutes in between orders, I would look at the day of the week that I'm driving. I would look at the time of day, and I would do some trend analysis. I would say, is this really the best time to drive? Because yeah, if I have to wait 10 to 15 minutes in between orders, are you multi-apping? You should be driving on all of the apps in that niche, again, to increase your chances here. So I've had this happen. I've multi-apped in the middle of like the afternoon, which is really not a good time to drive. Let's say maybe 11, even 12. And I know that's really the lunchtime, but sometimes the market's just doing what the market's doing and people aren't placing orders. So yeah, you could be sitting there 10 minutes for an order, and the orders that do come in, it's like $4, $5, $3.75. So I would think again, okay, I'd just make a mental note or even just record the day, the time, etc. And again, it's thinking to myself, is this really the best time to drive? Probably not. So nextly, a great question for anyone that's on Grubhub. This question from Steven. And Steven asks, what's going on with Grubhub? Food orders are just being received as I walk in the door. Many restaurants are complaining that drivers are coming way too early to pick up. Why is Grubhub sending their drivers this early? I'm actually waiting 10 to 15 minutes for food unless I cancel the order. I have no problem with DoorDash and Uber. So that's a great question, Steven. And let's think about this. So when does an app send a driver to the pickup? This is all algorithmic. And I've seen a little bit of the back end of Uber Eats as an example, but they're tracking you as a driver. And I guarantee Grubhub is doing the same thing of your current location. And that versus the proximity to the restaurant. When was the order placed? And typically for the restaurants, where are they at in their order process? At least for Uber Eats, they can click on order received, start an order, and then they'll click on how much time they anticipate to make that order. So this is, I'm betting, 100% algorithmic. So either there's not enough data in your marketplace, or there's just, frankly, not enough drivers indicating there's an issue. So do this. If you're getting there constantly way too early, then always mark there's a problem with this order. You can do that really on all of these apps and click on, and the order is still being prepared when I arrived. Or there's an option that says the order wasn't even started until I arrived. And kind of unfortunately, there's only so much you can do as a driver, but that's you putting that data point in that algorithm that, hey, your algorithm isn't on pace with me as a driver and the restaurant. So before we get into our next question here from William, I want you to think about your own marketplace and think about, has it ever kind of seemed a lot slower than you remember it once was? Because William kind of asked the same thing here. Has anyone else noticed Uber Eats not being as busy as it was a month ago? I used to recall seeing red zones and $10 to $20 dynamic bonuses, but now that seems to have all but vanished. Maybe it's just my market. So, I mean, surface level, we know these apps are what? They're based on supply and demand, right? So consumer behaviors, aka spending on food delivery, or again, whatever kind of niche that you're currently working in, but supply and demand from those requests and those that will fill those requests, right? Aka drivers. So to answer this question, I'll say that it's kind of tricky because honestly, we don't know the true reason, even in like my marketplace, right? Or in your marketplace. But we can think about a few things. Number one, has there been any recruiting efforts, any marketing, anything that would drive more drivers in your marketplace? AKA, there's more competition. And well, I guess, or is there anything that would affect consumer behavior, spending? Is there any reason why consumers might be spending less in your marketplace? I mean, think about weather changes. Think about things reopening, just restaurant activity, etc. Also think about, since these apps are algorithmic and you will see different bonuses than other drivers. Another driver that's like living in the same zone as you, even that signed up at the same zone, that has driven even a similar amount of trips. You will see, chances are, different bonuses even throughout the year at different times. So could it be something with these apps just giving you lesser bonuses, lesser bonus pay incentives, etc.? We don't know. But I would keep an eye on that. And what I've always tried to do to combat that is, if you're seeing less bonuses, is drive less on that app, all right? I'm not taking typically standard pay runs. I want the bonus pay. That's what's going to allow me to get 25, 30 plus an hour. So I'll drive in the apps that are offering it, right? Hopefully there are still some that are offering bonus pay. So drive on those. And then maybe once the algorithm notices on the other app that you're not driving, they'll start at the bonuses again. And then lastly, I mentioned that there was at least one call out here. And frankly, there is probably a ton here. I just grabbed a few. And certainly the whole premise of this channel is we are a team here. And I don't claim to make every single right choice when it comes to these apps. But I 100% agree with this one. So looking at this comment from Lake1771 referring to Amazon Flex and the $18 per hour shift that I accepted in all caps, Lake states, you should never take a flex shift for less than $20 an hour. So this comment got a lot of support. And again, here's the thing. I 100% agree with this. Keep in mind that here on YouTube, I do this full time, and it's my job to, vet these apps, try different side hustles, even if even knowingly that they're not the best ideal scenarios. So yeah, I agree with this. The effort that you'd put in on Amazon Flex, which is parcel delivery, $18 an hour. Yeah, I don't think that's enough, because what? Our goal for you this year on any gig app is $25 per hour. So frankly, if we took this $20 per hour shift, I still feel like that's not enough for the workload that you do on Flex, honestly, because you could probably make more money with, let's say, food delivery, and it's less effort and it could be less driving as well. But when asking you what side hustle you want to get more information on, Amazon Flex was really the number one answer. And just on the video traction that I've seen, Amazon Flex is a hot app right now. So yes, you'll still see maybe more $18 per hour shifts coming to the channel. So I actually had even more questions and call outs here. So if you want to see a part 3, because we have done this once already, definitely comment down below. I like doing this. I would love to highlight rather a whole lot more. But again, if you enjoyed these kind of comment reaction videos, let me know with a comment down below. And if you did get value in this video, definitely drop me a like. And you can also click or tap screen here for my newest video, as well as a video recommended for you. And I'll see you in the next one.